Welcome to Life List, a birding podcast.
Hello, welcome everybody. This is Life List, a birding podcast. I am George Armistead here with my co-host Alvaro Jaramillo. Alvaro, what's cooking?
Hello, George. I'm going to double everything as a Life List kind of culture, you know?
Nice.
But, I think,
I like it.
I'm going to have to listen to the first few and see if you did two hellos from the start or what you did. Or
I don't remember when it evolved. It was not a straight from out of the get-go.
Yeah, and now it's like lore. It's like the thing. Look at that. You created something. Finally, George.
It was about time. Yeah.
You're down in history for creating something.
Yeah. Well,
it's good here anyways. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think arguably, maybe you should give folks, we're in our, what season is this? 5?
I have no idea. I don't even know how we're counting seasons.
Yeah. We have changed that around at
it's
times.
Like
I'm sure
4 seasons in a year.
Yeah, something like that. We did 2 seasons in a year for a while. Now I think we're basically going by the year, but we're going every 2. We have new episodes every 2 weeks. But Al, why don't you tell folks what you think we're actually trying to do here at Life List?
What are we trying to do here? Well, what are we trying to do here?
Yeah, I think it's a worthwhile question.
I think for the most part, there's a lot of stuff that people get to listen to online and get stressed out about and, news, this and that, whatever. Yet they're birders. Birders want sometimes just to talk about birds or have people who are interested in birds talk about things that aren't birds, but also aren't,
but who are birders?
Things who are birders, because we don't always talk about birds, as everybody knows.
That is for certain.
I think we want to instill a notion of there's a birding culture out there, and it has history and it has value and it's interesting all the way through. There's a lot of people in birding that we can introduce you to, and also just the day-to-day, what did you see, what did you read type of stuff is what we wanted to get out to people so that they can be driving along or doing their, 60-minute cardio workout, which I'm sure half of you are doing right now. And you can just listen to bird people talking about birds. And we thought too that we had maybe something a little different to offer in that all 3 of us are diverse in what we've done and our experiences, that we also are interested in birds in our home, outside of our home in our yards. We've been doing it for a while, so we actually have some perspective that might be different from anybody who's but has been birding only since, let's say, the pandemic. So we are pre-pandemic birders, which is something, I think. I don't know. I mean, that's just kind of riffing off the top of my head what I think this whole deal is about here.
I'm vibing with you, man. I'm with you on this. I think we share a similar philosophy. And for anybody that might be listening for the first time, we mentioned the 3 of us, and obviously Molly Brown, our third partner in crime here, is not with us today. She is in Panama at Mount Totumas, enjoying 3-wattled bellbirds and resplendent quetzals and moth lighting at night on the Hillstar Panama Immersion Tour. She will be back on Sunday, and we will be recording again with her soon. And this was one of her ideas, Al, was that hey, maybe we should remind folks what it is we're actually trying to do with this podcast once in a while.
So she has her, even when she's not here, she influences the podcast.
Mm-hmm. She's the producer after all.
You know how hard it is for me not to break into the song Panama right now, but I'm not going to do it.
We all thank you, Alvaro, for alerting us that you will not break into song.
Right. But now a lot of you are listening to this and it's broken into your heads. Thank me for that.
Van Halen had a lot of good ones. That's a good one. That's a really good one. It was back in their heyday. Yeah.
And it was not about the country or the birds. They missed the boat on that. They could have been talking about trogons and
they could have been talking about the Pipeline Road, Mount Totumas, although it might not have existed in its current iteration at that time.
Right. That's a good one to rhyme with. Mount Tatumas. You can.
Yeah.
In a
Some
song.
skilled lyricists could probably figure out how to do that. Yeah.
Definitely a rapper could. That would be a good rap.
Yeah.
A little hip hop. But Van Halen, I'm not sure they could do Mount Tatumas in there. But anyway.
Speaking of hip hop and speaking of podcasts, I had the joy of joining Dexter Patterson and Jason Hall on the Bird Joy podcast, and that will probably air before this episode does. So yeah, I'd encourage folks to go check it out. They've both guested on this podcast, and I'm sure will again at some point. Jason is a good friend, lives here in Philly, and runs In Color Birding Club with some other friends of his, and they are a lot of fun to talk to and a lot of fun to listen to. So would definitely encourage folks to listen to that podcast. And part of what made me think of it was the hip hop out. I think the song that is going to go with my image for that is kind of my go-to karaoke song by Gangstar, which is 90s hip hop, Dwick, DWYCK, which is arguably my favorite hip hop song from the 90s, a classic that I highly recommend. Yeah, Gangstar, nice and smooth.
Maybe somebody has a video of George Armistead doing this song live. That would be good to put in the show notes. Anybody from high school out there listening to this?
I'll tell you what I will not be doing on karaoke anymore is, and I've tried this now twice, and both times it was sufficiently bad.
Is that it? No.
Not too far off, Al. It was Celine Dion. I tried to do Celine Dion. I don't even remember the name of the song. It's like, That's the Way It Is. It's like, don't give up on your faith, if you believe it. But it's like one of those songs that I don't remember how I learned this song, but if it were to come on in the car, I would really give forth and sing it. And I was like, but nobody can ever know this. But then I started trying to do it at karaoke, and it went very badly. It went like people left the room.
Now everybody knows this. Wow.
Yeah, well, yeah, and there might be video of that, and you trust me, it's actually not fun to listen to. It just makes you want to turn it off right away. So I'm not going to be doing that anymore. I think that's it for me and Celine Dion. Yeah. It's a shame. It's a real shame.
Yeah, I don't know. Celine Dion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like, that's like trying to do like a cowbird song, like
right. I picked a hard one.
You're not going to do,
it's like
you're not going to hit all those, right? You're not going to hit all those notes. Most people do, they try kind of like an olive-sided flycatcher or something that,
right.
Or maybe, I don't know, Wait There's a Sparrow.
That'd be a good one.
Kind of something easy. But
I gotta
say, karaoke.
I do a pretty good Willow Ptarmigan. That's pretty good. Yeah.
I don't know. I think you do the cartoon version of the Willow Ptarmigan. You don't do the real one. When you hear my cartoon version, much more.
I think my cartoon version is better than the actual Willow Ptarmigan. That's how proud of it I am.
That's really good. Yeah.
I'll save that for the Patreon, folks. But join Patreon, folks, if you haven't done so already.
Because you're going to get.
That's where you get that kind of stuff.
If you don't get the Willow Ptarmigan by George within the next 3-4 weeks, current Patreons, please make a note and send it to our management so that he will do this.
Oh boy. Now I'm quite scared. Alvaro, what I would like to know is, what is your latest yard bird that you have seen at your new place there?
Good one. Latest yard bird. I did see least bittern again. So it's like, it's not just a once in a lifetime kind of thing. It's, they're out there.
Semi-regular now.
Yeah. They're nesting in the marsh right across the bay. So seeing them, the weird thing is actually it was Eastern Meadowlark. Meadowlark.
Juicy. That's what I want to get here.
Yeah. They're around. It's nothing really is unexpected that I've seen, really. Things are around. The fact that least bitterns nest across the bay is really lucky, but it's a known thing. But I did, on the dog walk, which is just up on a side road here with just a dirt road, no traffic. Today, a grasshopper sparrow was singing, and I kind of got a cool vibe from it because it's a grasshopper sparrow, but also I used to walk my dog in Half Moon Bay, and every 3 to 4 years, a grasshopper sparrow would pop in and sing for about a week in the grasslands and then leave roughly at this time of year. It was sort of maybe a little early. It might have been in June.
But they were kind of in and out, and that was it.
That was it. And
Yeah.
this one, kind of popped in, and I had not heard one in this area for the time I've been here. And it makes you realize how much some of these birds are, I don't want to call them nomadic, but maybe it is sort of a minor scale nomadism, like where they will move a short distance, let's say 50 kilometers, 30 miles, just looking for the right field. And if the right situation is there and the females are there, they will probably breed. And this bird probably had already bred somewhere. And I think fields for birds like this change enough that they just move and try again.
You think maybe the grasshopper,
else.
The sparrow, and the meadowlark both kind of doing the same thing, wandering around something?
I think the sparrow more than the meadowlark. Meadowlark being larger needs a longer time frame to breed. So it probably, it might just do one brood a year. I don't know. I should look up. There's a book on blackbirds that I could look up where it would tell me that information.
Mm-hmm. But what's it called? New World Blackbirds, I believe.
New World Blackbirds.
Alvaro, how to be?
Yeah, Peter Burke.
Peter Burke.
Yeah,
Peter
that's
Burke.
right. Yeah, Peter Burke. I should ask him. He's a friend of mine.
Yeah, so he knows.
Most things I've written, I've already forgotten, George. That's
why you wrote them down in the first place.
Exactly. Exactly. That's why people write stuff down.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm sure that anybody who writes anything would say the same thing. It's like, I had an idea, I wrote it down. Now it's there, right? So, sort of that pondering of the movements of things. And then also, I was very excited when I was about to move out here that there was a chance to sort of see upland sandpipers on territory. But upland sandpipers on territory last about 3 weeks. They display and they're highly vocal and everything happens. Then
that's one of the greatest bird songs.
Fledge and boom.
That display song of upland sandpiper's got to be one of the best bird songs in North America.
Right. Yeah, we should put that in the show notes because I bet a lot of people don't know what it sounds like. But
like the flight call is pretty cool. That quip thing that they do. Mm-hmm. But the song, the display song, if you've never heard that and you're familiar with upland sandpiper, or even if you're not familiar with upland sandpiper, it is worth listening to. And they'll do it at night too. Like I've a few times been out in areas where they're displaying it at night, and man, it's a loud sound and it's a really cool one.
And the flight note is the Spanish name, at least in the south, like in Uruguay, Argentina, Chile. It's called batitu, the 3 notes, batitu, and it might come from an actual Guarani word for the bird, since they winter mostly in Argentina and Uruguay, some in southern Brazil, kind of like that.
I saw one in the Pantanal.
Yeah, it's so in my learning here, I realized that I kind of moved in a little too late. I mean, if I hadn't been traveling and stuff, I probably would have seen these uplands. But my guess is that they're already on their way south.
Right. Might be around me right now someplace. Yeah.
Yeah, and there may be juveniles around here somewhere, but I bet they're just quiet, just lurking in the grass and just not flying around at all. So we'll see how that pans out for next year or other years.
Yeah, I remember the last trip I ever got to do with Tom Johnson was that trip we did to Alberta, and we hit a prairie patch, our gang of 7 or 8 of us, and there was I don't remember how many, but there was dozens of upland sandpipers right there. Mm-hmm. It was pretty wild. And it was it was a little bit earlier, but it felt like, I think we had kind of assumed that they were kind of done already. But man, it was a lot of birds. So a lot of upland sandpipers all at once.
That may have been a pre-migration kind of flock.
That's what I was wondering, sort of a staging kind of thing. Or
fattening up, yeah.
Yeah.
They go south. I'm not quite sure where exactly they go south in North America. I assume sort of the midline of the U.S., but they do long nonstop flights, and they eventually hit down into Bolivia. Sort of that Bolivia and Pantanal are the where they hit when they've sort of not fall out, but sort of stop their migration. moving south. Then they fatten up for a bit and then continue the last bit to Argentina. But the cool thing is, like, way back, I remember, before there were we had all this bird info, they were actually printed like staple bound things, that people actually just did their bird trips, that what they saw, and you could actually buy them. There was kind of it was like a travel nature tour, birding tour service where you could buy people's reports. And sometimes they included stuff that the companies were seeing, which at that time was essentially wings, vent, field guides, really almost nothing else. And I remember, I think it was a field guide strip that they described where they found a upland sandpiper sitting up on top of a tree in the middle of the Yungas forest in northwest Argentina.
That is interesting.
And I thought, whoa, what the hell's that thing doing out there? Like, I stayed in my mind. And then when the birders in Chile started getting up in the desert looking for storm petrels, they started hearing these guys flying over. And they had the theory that they were flying from Argentina, sort of straight line crossing up to Central America or something. So they were going over the desert, then probably over the ocean to get up to the north. And now we've got all the tracking data, and it's exactly what they do. They actually cross the Andes somewhere in northern Argentina, get into the desert of Chile. Some of them stop, most of them don't. So they're just at night flying and you can hear them. And then they go out over the Peruvian Ocean. And I think they land somewhere like in Central America somewhere, and before they hit Texas. It's crazy, right? But the birders actually were hearing them. And first it was sort of like, nah, you got to be kidding. And then, of course, they're recording them, and it's like, oh, that's what it is, and there's like multitudes of them. It's not just one. So
yeah, when you said that, Phil Sean was doing one of our trips in Colombia this year, and he was up in the mountains. He was up in the Andes someplace, in Colombia, and they're just going along this like 2-track dirt road, and there's an upland sandpiper just walking the road up and like way up high in the Andes.
Yeah. That's probably one of the crossers,
Yeah. By the way, I did find that checklist. We had 42 uplands at this one little spot on the road in Alberta that year when Tom and our friends were all birding there. That's the most I've ever seen at once anywhere personally.
But yeah, so there's a lot of my brain space is just thinking about this new avifauna. Not new, but at least sort of learning it in detail locally.
Yeah.
So, what's sort of going on. And
you're developing a new waypoint sort of all over again. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's going to be really fun to watch.
And a lot of stuff is different than when I grew up in Ontario. There's just not that many swallows, for example. Like, it used to be that there were barn swallows everywhere, and now, not so much, I'm surprised. Even things that I remember being absolutely abundant, like black-crowned night herons, at least around here, are not that abundant, not that common. And, you see one and it's like a little orange dot on the eBird, like, sort of like it's not rare, but it ain't common either. And I was like, what? Black-crowned night heron used to be abundant. So, yeah, it's interesting. Changing the subject a little bit, something totally out of left field, and I mentioned it when we were talking about AviList, and actually there's a couple of AviList things to talk about, which is this new international standardized checklist for the birds of the world. But I mentioned that I'd seen this article in Dutch Birding about great egrets and the different populations, and you could identify them by bill coloration and so forth, and
the wintering grounds even, yeah.
And the wintering ground, yeah. And I think what my point here is that, look, there's a lot of birders out there who love this vagrancy, bird identification stuff, the heavy duty sort of like, how to maybe, rare seabirds, all sorts, this kind of stuff, right? And where do you find it? I mean, where do you read about this? It used to be that sort of all the sort of real intense stuff came out in Birding Magazine back in the day. And Birding Magazine has shifted. North American Birds has shifted in what it does,
Publications in general shifted.
Yeah, the publications have shifted, and not necessarily in a negative way. It's just, people are interested in, a varying set of things to read about. But if you are into this type of stuff, like, I just pulled up, I think this is the latest one, Dutch birding. Distinguishing velvet, white-winged, and Stenninger scoters in female-type plumage based on bill feathering. I'm like, give me more. I mean, this is the kind of stuff, like if you're trying to find a vagrant scoter and it's not going to be the male, or you're going to go to Alaska and you're trying to figure out how you tell a Stenninger scoter from a white wing, and these all used to be the same species. They were split, right. I don't know, 5 years ago.
Well, we were wrestling with that exact thing, Al. Just on this Alaska tour I just did, we were able to identify a male. There was 2 other birds with it that were non-adult males, and we were like, what would we even look for?
Exactly. This is the kind of stuff that they're publishing in there. Identification of Montero's storm petrels at sea.
Oh, boy.
The spectacle eider that was
split from band rump for folks that may not know.
That's right. The spectacle eider spectacle in Netherlands, so they have photographs of that kind of the crazy vagrancy thing. Presumed Stenninger's times white-winged scoter hybrid at Nome, Alaska.
Oh, no.
Now I think we talked about this last year because that was with...
Who wrote that article?
That was our gang, Daniel Lopez Velasco,
and
Pat
Killian
Lonergan, and Killian Malarney. Yeah, that we birded with, or, at least, no, we didn't bird. We just had beers with them.
We had beers with them, yeah. We did,
which seems like birding. It's kind of part of birding, isn't it?
It's certainly an important thing to do, yeah.
Yeah, and here's the thing, too. It's like Dutch Birding is a Dutch magazine, and if you've tried the Dutch language, my friends, it's... It's actually not as far from English as you'd think, but the pronunciation and all that's really, really difficult. Yet all of the real key articles that are of worldwide significance are in English. So if you're into this kind of stuff, and I have no connection at all with Dutch, I'm not getting a cent from them. I'm just like...
You're just saying there's some cool stuff here that if you like ID, it might be right up your alley.
I'm excited about every time, like, when you get back in the day, George, you would get it was probably a paper package with your birding magazines inside, and you'd rip it open before your dad could get his
grubby paws all over it. Yeah, with all his Cheez-Its all over his fingers,
God, and he'd ruin the photographs with all the Cheez-Its dust,
Not good.
It's like, now I can't tell, Dad, if this is whatever. It's just Cheez-It all over it. So it's that excitement of like when you get a note, like one of these is published, and I see them online, right? I actually don't get the paper version, and that's fine with me. But Dutch birding, for those of you who are really interested in this sort of crazy stuff, and I have no idea if, what the next articles are going to be about, but there's a lot of stuff on shorebirds. There'll be, the kind of stuff, that you might get into.
Some names I recognize involved. Arnoud van den Berg is the chief editor and has been a real pioneer in birding around the world for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And some good folks on the editorial board as well. So
yeah.
Lots of good, highly competent people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just give it a shot if you're one of these identification, vagrancy, little brown bird. And before you know it, you'll be interested in, identifying old world warblers. It's fun. It's fun stuff.
Yeah, I'm going to check it out. I would also like to remind folks of a publication of sorts for which you do have a vested interest, Alvaro, and that is the Lifeless Birding Podcast newsletter.
Oh, yeah.
Folks, if you go to the Lifeless website, lifelesspodcast.com, you'll see a place, I think it's in the upper right of our site there where you can join and receive the newsletter. That's sometimes where we kind of break news that we saved there. And there's mostly it's cool stuff. Like there's a series of articles that we think are interesting. One that Alvaro will be near and dear to his heart will be the long haul gull hitching an 80-mile truck ride to find food, right? This was the GPS tracked gull that was found hitching a ride on a long haul garbage truck from San Francisco, trash transfer all the way into the Central Valley. And it did this
multiple
not once,
times.
but yeah, exactly, but multiple times. And it's pretty cool. They got a map and everything. There's a whole article on this. You can check it out. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, these gulls are smart.
Yeah.
And, they know where the food is.
Speaking of that, there's also an article about how smart the sulfur-crested cockatoos are because they figured out how to open trash cans and even turn on taps at like public fountains in Australia to eat and drink. So that's another example of a pretty smart bird doing some pretty clever stuff.
I would say that's vandalism, actually. That's a vandalism. These birds should be rounded up.
Mm-hmm. The public good is being harmed.
Yeah, yeah. Those cockatoos with their fancy crests and sulfur stuff.
And have you ever heard them? Like some of them, they can curse like sailors, depending on who their owner is. They can pick up some real nasty language, those cockatoos.
I don't keep that company, George, so I
have you never seen, there are innumerable YouTube videos of parrots that have learned profanity from their owners that say hilarious stuff. It is.
I avoid that. I like real comedy done by humans.
I don't know. Some profanity-laced tirades from parrots in English is pretty good for me, but I'm a simple man.
You're a simple man, and I do remember back when I was a kid hearing the stories of the raven in Peterborough, Ontario, who had to be taken out of the Peterborough Zoo because all the kids would go over and teach him all sorts of stuff to say, and and it's like
he figured out how to.
Heavens, heavens. What's that?
My word.
My word.
Well, I never.
That bird, and it's a filthy tongued bird. Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing, I mentioned AviList, and you guys, if you folks, if you did not listen to the AviList podcast we did, was it two podcasts ago?
I think that's right. Yeah, I think so.
Which is,
Our
really
second
sort of
June podcast. Yeah, it was
that's right.
In June.
In June. That explains sort of what the concept is of this unified list and how many of the world checklists will cease to be because they're sort of unified into this new world checklist. What I thought was interesting in my time when I was in Finland was that the AviList checklist came online. Was it on the 10th of June? 10th of June?
That sounds about right.
June, something like that.
Yeah, it's close.
So we were out there, and it turns out that all the Finnish birders, sort of the ones that, sort of really interested, the sort of, I guess, the more hardcore birders, I guess, is what you would say, but it seemed to be really broad ranging. We're really, really like interested in this whole deal. Some of them shaking their fists at the lumps that had been made. And like, what's going on? And suddenly, my numbers have dropped. And really, yeah.
Peter Kasner, who's, an American and our top lister, he's lost like 70 or 80 birds or something. He's back down below 10,000.
Yeah.
So there was definitely some potentially adverse effects of this unification of taxonomies, depending on your perspective.
Mm-hmm. Now, if this Dr. Mann guy, what was his name? That was his name? The guy?
You're talking about that guy, the guy that basically nobody ever heard of, that came out of nowhere and was like, I have already gotten 10,000 birds. He probably still has 10,000
I did that
birds.
already. I did that already.
Right.
If he was like really clever, like a real clever evil genius, he could have concocted his list so that he would have maximized his stay rather than losing as many. You know what I mean? But I
don't give him any ideas. Hopefully he's not a listener.
It's obvious. It's obvious that yeah, I mean, I'm sure he didn't concoct anything, right, George? But
yes,
I don't know. Birding has certain elements of you need time. You need time, effort, and all that stuff to really sort of move up in these world listing things, which me and you,
you can't do it on your own. You need a lot of help to do it. There's dozens, if not hundreds, of birds that you basically can't do without getting the help of specific folks, and then there's a lot of places you just can't even get to.
And I think that was a critique from a lot of people. It's like, this guy, where's he been? Sort of what have you. But Peter Kastner's been around forever. He's been birding and very publicly sort of, denoting what he's been seeing, where he's gone, and so forth. So it to me, he is the one that I sort of, if you're gonna talk about getting the 10,000, he's the one sort of I feel like. Yeah. I have more confidence. Let's put it that way.
I think he dots his I's and crosses his T's when it comes to listing these birds. My experience with him is that he does that. I've gotten a bird with Peter a few times, and never seen anything but him being on the up and up. So,
but if he dropped below 10,000, what an opportunity to do it again.
Yeah, exactly. He could be the only guy to do it twice, right?
He will have done it twice in two different. I mean, crazy. This is almost like a gimme for like I don't know, some heartwarming story.
He's heading to Chile. I saw he's going to Chile to pick up some birds. Yeah.
My gosh.
Yeah.
So it's like, wait, what? I wonder what he's got in. Oh, what? Fuegian snipe.
Fuegian snipe. Yeah, probably.
Because they're like easy to see now. Like I'd say, it's crazy. Since when we started this podcast, I think I started with the bird I most want to see is the Fuegian snipe. And now people are seeing them all over the place. So I'm like, oh,
it's amazing.
Things have changed. Yeah.
Yeah. It's another one of those mysteries that is disintegrated kind of in front of us.
But Avilist made a big, repercussion in Europe. Like it was a big deal. And people were talking about it, what changed, what didn't change, and stuff. And it wasn't necessarily from a like, who are these people coming into, it was more like, oh, wow, we've sort of gone into this new system. And what are the changes? And what I think was, for me, the real story was that in the U.S., probably in Canada too, it was a non-story. Like most people were not paying attention because we're so sort of internal focused on like, what does the ABA, follow, or what does the NAC follow? Yet,
well, also we were already following Clements, right? Which in a lot of this stuff has been kind of slow rolled already. It feels like within the U.S.
I don't know, but are people following Clements? I mean, or I don't know.
Ebird, Clements.
Ebird, yeah, okay. Yet, maybe that's it. Maybe that's part of it. But I thought it was interesting how something kind of international makes international news outside North America, but within North America, it just sort of doesn't. It's sort of odd.
Yeah.
But I think it's who you follow. It varies. I think, and it depends on how old you are. I think younger people just go with eBird. They might have never heard of the ABA checklist committee. They might have never heard of the AOS/AOU. And that's actually the most internationalist way to be sort of thinking, in a sense, because that's the one that actually is in line with Avilist. So,
yeah.
Anyway, my little observation.
It's interesting, and maybe some of the repercussions just haven't really been felt still. But you're right. I've been surprised that there hasn't been sort of more, I don't want to say outcry, but sort of more like, oh, this is something we're dealing with now. But within the U.S. and Canada, within North America, we just really haven't had that as much. So we shall see. We shall see. Perhaps that will change in the months and weeks ahead.
Mm-hmm. That is true. What else do we have in our topic list here, George? I think we ran out of topics suddenly.
Wow. That would be really something. Well, I know you've got pelagics coming up.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, pelagics we've done the first two to the Fairlawns, and both had a booby, one unidentified booby, and a second was a cocos booby. And this weekend, another pelagic sold out. We do have 2 weeks from now our first deep water pelagic on the 20th, still with spaces. And I'm going to be back in California for those that weekend. For there's still stuff I need to do there and sort of make it make it happen with sort of when there's some pelagics going on. And I'll be there probably for a 2-week period between sort of that late August to mid September time frame where I'll be doing a lot of boat trips. So if if anybody's contemplating going on a pelagic and they're like want to hit the peak season, that's the time. Peak season for the Farallones is now, though.
Yeah, Farallones, Southeast Farallon is not as much coverage, right, as there used to be. Southeast Farallon is, folks, I think we've talked about before, is the #1 eBird hotspot in North America, and I think it's like 40 species ahead of the one with the second most species, which is crazy when you consider where it is. And sadly, it looks like there's just not going to be the amount of coverage out there going forward as there has been historically. But you can get out and sail around them a bit with Al.
Yeah, I think the Farallones have been. They've had biologists on them every single day of the year since I want to say like the late '60s, maybe it's the early '70s. So
and cameras now, cameras are up there. They're finding like red-flanked blue tails and stuff through like remote cameras periodically.
Yeah. Coverage. I mean, the camera coverage has been for a few years. Alan Hopkins in the city has been sort of the pioneer of camera birding, and it was kind of intense a few years back. Maybe it was during the pandemic. I don't remember, but so people would log into the camera to see if they could find a vagrant. And
that's awesome.
It was pretty
I love
wild.
it.
I did spend some time with the camera last year when there was a killer whale group that was seen from the camera, and then they were hunting down a humpback whale, and you could see it all happening. It was pretty wild.
Wow.
So it was all sort of live. I got the word. Everybody was like, "Did you see the camera? There's the whales are up there." It's like, so we all logged in.
The word went out.
Yeah, the word went out. Probably people all over San Francisco at work, were like logging in to the Farallon camp. But this year federal funding, which was part of the way that Point Blue kept biologists there 24/7, was curtailed. Is not unusual, but curtailed, and there's no way to sort of make up the shortfall for them quickly enough to get people, continue the full coverage. And it was coverage on birds and mammals, surveys of all sorts. Every day they had people doing counts of one kind or the other. Also sharks. So it's like great white sharks. Yeah. Whale counts, pinnipeds breeding there, and breeding birds, and then also migratory birds. So all of it is curtailed. However, just 10 days ago, a week ago, they had a least storm petrel that they caught in the nets, and that's become kind of a thing. I think they caught one last year or 2 years ago, and
they think they're breeding there.
I doubt it, but the fact that they're there may mean they're starting to think about breeding there.
Okay.
But yeah, so it's like these birds are attracted by the activity of other birds, and it just for a long time there were no these storm petrels at this latitude at all. And now they're sort of here. So we have seen them on our pelagics in the last couple of years, which was, at first we thought that was going to be like once in a lifetime, but then it happened more than once. So we feel like they've started to move north as water is warming. We'll see what happens this year. So
nice. Well, good luck out there. I should mention too, we have a couple pelagics coming up. We don't do, like you've got a full run of trips out there. We just run a couple. So really just a couple opportunities to get out if you're in the mid-Atlantic and want to get out of Delaware or Maryland. August 10th, we are still currently a few people short of running that trip. I think we'll probably get there, but August 15th is a Friday, and we depart 10 p.m. Friday, August 15th, and return by 6 p.m. The Saturday, the next day. And we're going for deep water stuff, hoping for pterodroma petrels and bandrum storm petrel types. And at this time of year, it's a good time of year for migrant long-tailed Jaegers and maybe tropical terns to move up north into our waters. And similarly, it's a famously good time also for white-faced storm petrel, the little spaghetti-legged sea kangaroo, and we probably have just as good a shot at that, if not better, on the September 13th trip out of Ocean City, Maryland. So, yeah, those are two pelagic opportunities we've got coming up August 15th and September 13th here in the Mid-Atlantic off the Delmarva Peninsula. So hope folks will consider joining those. I am hopeful to be on at least one of those trips myself. So excited to get offshore. It's been a minute.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm keen on the first offshore trip. That July here is a time when anything can be out there. And I noticed that the NOAA research ship 2-3 days ago had a short-tailed albatross. So that may mean we've hit what's the word, like a threshold. This year there's been more short-tailed albatrosses in California than I think we've ever had.
Wow.
In terms of different reports.
Still need that bird.
So maybe.
I want to see one of those chocolate youngsters. They just look like such a beautiful seabird.
Yeah. No, that's what shows up down here. So it's the youngsters. So Have you heard of Senkaku albatross? Do you know this?
Yes.
Have we talked about this?
I don't know if we've talked about it on the podcast, but I know you and I have talked about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I only know about it because of that, really.
Yeah. So if you guys look at a picture of these short-tailed albatross, they're huge, big North Pacific albatross, very rare, getting more common. They breed in Japan and a couple of islands sort of off to the east of Tokyo, if you can kind of imagine sort of that chain of islands out that way, and volcanic islands and so forth. The big story way back was that they were gone after World War II. They seem to have gone extinct, but they were out at sea. Once these birds became adults, they sort of repopulated these islands. Japanese were really interested in conserving them, and it's been a very successful program. But a different colony of them in an entirely different area, kind of closer towards Taiwan, like so way south and to the west on this island called Senkaku, has appeared over the last couple of decades. And it turns out these Senkaku albatrosses are small. So they look like a short-tailed albatross, but they're the size more like a little bit closer to a black-footed albatross in size. And they were able to get some genetic material. They're actually substantially different genetically from the main short-tailed albatross.
Wow.
And some people, at least in Japan, they talk about them being really sort of a separate thing, like a different species, or at least something of that ilk.
Size difference and a genetic difference sounds different.
Yeah. And the island is, I want to say it's sort of like in one of these contested areas between China, Taiwan, Japan, maybe I've got that wrong. You guys can look it up, but Senkaku Islands. So there's no biologists actually out there. So they're not banded. And all, essentially, if not, I think all of the other short-tailed albatross have bands.
The Torishima.
So, yeah. So one of the things, if you're in North America and you see these things, if you're lucky enough to see one, is to look for bands, because essentially all of them have bands. And if you have no band, it's sort of like ding, 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 ding. And then, look for size, because it's possible, although highly unlikely, that some of them might make it to North America. They seem to have a different area that they go to. So they're not going up to Alaska, into
Do
those
people
waters.
know where that other area is or not?
Yeah,
really?
I think they're sort of going into Hokkaido and eastern northern Japan.
But sort of staying on the other side of the Pacific still.
Yeah. But that could just be a question of the population's very small. So once these populations increase and these birds start to retake whatever the original range was, which we don't know, because... And George, please don't interrupt me. This is very important. Apparently, the type specimen for short-tailed albatross is a Senkaku type.
Oh boy!
So if that's the case, and we
different?
they're different.
Then there's
short-tailed albatross has no name.
Wow!
Woohoo!
Juicy. How many short-tailed type albatrosses have you seen over the years on your trips out of California? And really, is it just that many?
Yeah.
Wow.
2.
And both were banded.
Both were banded. Yeah. One of them had a transmitter, like a big backpack transmitter.
Wow.
Not big, but
noticeable. Yeah.
I think that'll increase though from now on. We used to see very few Layzans, and now we see many. I think have really changed for Layzan as well. They've increased a lot in California. So we'll see. I have seen them in Japan too. In Japan, it's much easier. You can see them from some of the ferries that you can go birding from. That's been fun because in Japan, you can see things that are patchy, white and dark,
intermediate kind of.
In California, they're always the chocolate brown kind of youngsters. Yeah.
Someday. Well, I'm hopeful. I'd love to see one in like Alaska while sea watching or something. I think that would be pretty fun. But I'd be happy to see one any old place as long as I get to see one. Anytime I get to see a new tube nose, that is exciting.
Yep.
Yeah. Al, I did think there's been a bit of a skunk update here in the neighborhood, which is that we have a neighbor's dog who I don't think my neighbor is a listener, so I think I'm safe saying this. But their dog is not very friendly. Have you ever seen the movie Cujo, the Stephen King movie?
I've heard of it.
Yeah, it's an old movie, old horror film about a Saint Bernard gets rabies and becomes like vicious. And it's like a horror film about this mean dog. And we kind of quietly refer to this dog that is our neighbor's dog as Cujo, even though it's like not even half the size of a Saint Bernard. But it's not a very nice dog, if I'm being honest. But it apparently got a hold of the skunk the other night that found our dog Sully and sprayed him pretty good, who still stinks, by the way. It's been over 2 weeks now. And Sully, it's not like overpowering, but if he gets wet, all of a sudden you're like, oh man, now he's, the whole room smells like skunk again. Because somehow that activates it like all over again. But that skunk is no longer with us because our neighbor's dog, Maggie, got a hold of it. And Maggie dispatched that skunk in pretty short order, but is somewhat worse from what I understand. But it was a very small skunk. I think it was a youngster because I actually saw it a couple times after that and could confirm it was a striped skunk, that my nose did not lie.
It wasn't a hognose skunk introduced.
Yeah.
Patagonian hognose skunk. Somebody had let go. Well, Cujo did something for the community, and I think you should, rather than be sitting here going on about how this dog's really mean, just sort of say, hey, look, thank you for your service, Cujo.
Well, there's a number of people that are taking that tack, but in spite of what this skunk did to our dog, I just adore skunks, and I just think they're so cool that I'm a little beaten up about it. I'm a little beaten up, a little sad.
Well, somebody should introduce porcupines to your neighborhood. See what you think.
We have them not so far from here. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm getting excited, Al, because shorebird season is heating up here. I've got enough obligations at home here that I don't think I'll be birding for another probably week to 10 days beyond the yard. While the yard is nice, I'm not picking up any migrants or shorebirds here. I am planning to get down to the Delaware Bay soon. Probably both Jersey side and Delaware side, which just can be such a fabulous area for migrant shorebirds starting in late July. So I am pretty excited. I'm getting the itch. It's definitely becoming, it's not overwhelming yet. It'll continue to build, but I got to get down there. I got to get out and I got to see some shorebirds, see some of these adults, which are coming through first. And I love when you're out enough where you can see that changeover. You see the adults coming through, kind of looking worn, a lot of them. And then all of a sudden you get your first juvies that look all fresh and scaly and pretty. And it's just a whole different ballgame once they arrive.
Yep.
So I'm getting excited. Fall migration is not so far away.
Well, I bought a bike, so I can start biking the roads here, looking for stuff. And there's like a point somewhere down not too far away, just accessed by the dirt roads where it might be cool to go out there and look around. So I'm trying to avoid getting in the car and birding, just like bike birding.
Yeah.
So it's my thing.
You live in a good spot to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can do that at some points of the year, not as much this time of year. Yeah, well, good stuff is coming up. Is there anything else, Al, you feel like you ought to share with the good people before we sign off here?
We actually we had some cancellations on the South Africa trip that's in September, October. Wine and birds, lots of wine, lots of birds, lots of mammals. Great places to stay, pelagic, the whole 9 yards. So do look up alvarosadventures.com for that. And also our Chile trip that's going to happen in December this year has spots open, as does maybe one cabin left on Antarctica that is end of October, November. So, yep.
Nice. Yeah, for us, I'd say the big one that we are trying to squeeze out here is our Oaxaca trip, which we have done every year for the last few years. This year, we're a couple short. We need 1 or 2 more people to sign up to make that trip a go. It is happening from October 20th to the 31st of this year. Oaxaca Exciting Endemics and Day of the Dead. So it's not only a chance to see things like bridled sparrow and red warblers and dwarf jays and, chestnut-sided shrike vireos and Buchard's wren and a whole bunch of really, really cool birds. But at the end of the trip, too, we have the Dia de Muertos, Day of the Dead, where you can go around and check out the celebration, which is a pretty wild time. People always come back raving about it. But we've only got a couple more weeks here before we gotta make a decision on that trip. So if you've been on the fence about it, I'd say hop off the fence, join us. Josh Coville is guiding that trip with Eric Antonio Martinez. They are a dynamic duo. Yeah, hope some folks will join us for that. But I think with that, we better sign off here, Al.
All right.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks everybody for listening. We'll be back again soon with more Life List, a birding podcast. Everyone have a great day. Alvaro, that goes for you too, my friend.
Even me. Thank you. Right, bye-bye.